Hi, Leslie. Welcome to the podcast. We're so excited to have you here today.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
So I wanted to talk to you just about your business journey in general, and you're also a working mom. So I thought that would be kind of a great story to just share with the listeners. Can you
Yeah,
start by just telling us your story, basically how you decided to start a business, what that business is, kind of give us a little backstory?
sure. Well, I often call myself an accidental entrepreneur because I definitely did not set out to start a business ever. I was a freelance graphic designer living in Michigan. While my husband was in grad school, I had my first son. I was home a lot, and a friend of mine asked me to design a planner for her. And I loved paper products, and I thought I would definitely like to do that. So I did. And she printed it out. She used it for a year. The next year, she came back and asked me to do the same thing. And it kind of continued like that for a couple of years until more and more people started asking if they could also get one. And before long, I have Limelife planners as we know it today. So it just kind of grew very organically and sometimes slowly, sometimes really a lot faster than I would have liked over the years.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was, I definitely didn't set out to do it. And sometimes I think that's been great. And sometimes it's been hard.
Yeah. So I think it's so cool that you were able to grow organically like that, or actually even form that way too, out of
Mhm.
a need. Because I think for my own business, I kind of did everything backwards, where I started with this product I'm going to create and then wasn't really sure who was going to use it
Yeah.
afterwards, which is really hard. So if you start the way you're supposed to, like you did, it can be much more helpful.
Yeah.
Save a lot of work. So you're sitting in your studio. Can you tell us where
Yep.
you are now and how your business works today?
Yeah. So I have a shop in Oxford, Pennsylvania, which is thankfully only about 4 minutes from my house. And it's about 1,000 square feet. It's a production facility primarily. So my copier is here, and all the tools that we need to produce all of our planners and all of our other products are here in house. Everything that we do that we sell, we manufacture and ship from this room. Which I'm actually quite proud of, because a lot of planners that you get are purchased overseas and just resold on a website. So I am very proud that we make everything here and that everything is custom. Um, Going back a little bit, it used to take up the better part of the downstairs of my home.
Mhm.
So in 2015, I had 3 little kids and an entire planner business in my house. And I was like, something has to give. So I looked for some retail space, and thankfully there was something in Oxford. And I've moved, this is the second place that I've actually been. I used to be around the corner, but this is a great space for us.
Okay. So talk to us about having 3 little kids and running a business. What's it like being a working mom? Do you think being an entrepreneur has kind of added to being a mom, or like taken away from in some aspects? Just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So when I started this, kind of crazy. I have 3 children. I currently have a 7th grader, a 4th grader, and a 3rd grader. My last 2 kids are 10 and a half months apart, which is a little nutty, and probably would not recommend that to anybody.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, in the early days when it kind of felt like I had 4 kids, honestly, because I had this business that was, still in its infancy. I used to have a business partner. I don't anymore. So we were kind of, transitioning away from that. I had very small children. And it was very, very, very difficult for a lot of years. There were definitely, I feel like I've kind of, had hills and valleys with that in regards to being a mom and a business owner. There were definitely times in the beginning where I put my kids, like, I did like what I absolutely had to do with them, and then I was doing business stuff most of the time. And then a few years ago, I don't exactly know what changed. Honestly, I don't know if there was just an event or, just as I get older and more experience with things, I decided that that was not going to work for me anymore. And no matter what, I was going to take my kids to school every morning and pick them up every single day. And I do that still. And so that means that I get into work around 8:30 and I leave. If I'm picking up my middle schooler, I leave at 2. If I'm picking up my elementary kids, I leave at 3. And that's that. That's what I do. And obviously that's not like super conducive to growing the business very rapidly, because most people don't work those terrible hours. But it's what works for us and our family, and I'm not going to change that.
Yeah, I can absolutely relate to that. And I think a lot of that comes from just being in a flow in business and kind of gaining that experience before you're really able to just say, all right, wait a second, these are my non-negotiables.
Yeah.
I think we have those as moms. I'm the same way. My husband is able to help in the morning with my son now that he's a retired state trooper. So he's home, he's working another job, but he's more flexible with that now in his retirement years. So, but I've put in non-negotiables as well, like even just going to the gym or taking a walk every day, I'm going to do it. And my business takes a break while I do that.
Yeah. And I should also mention that my husband is a professor at a local university, and he is extremely passionate about his job. He loves his job, and his job takes up a lot more than 40 hours a week. And so I want to be a supportive spouse to him. Mm-hmm. And so often his job takes precedence or priority over mine too. But I think that's one of the amazing things about being a business owner, is that you can prioritize like that. Yeah. And, I think sometimes I'll say that to certain people and they're like, it doesn't sound like, a very like feminist girl power statement. Like, I would like to put my business aside for my husband's career, but that's what I want to do. That's what genuinely, like, I want to do for our family. That's what feels the best. So,
and that's where the empowerment is, right? That you're able to decide.
Yeah.
Okay. So you just mentioned, and I didn't realize before, that you had a business partner. So you started as in a partnership and then transitioned. So how was that? I think a lot of women want to start a business and they think, I'll start with a partner and it'll be so much easier. I started as a partnership too. And transitioned as well.
My attorney, when I was going through the separation, divorce, I don't know what you want to call it. I've never been divorced, thank God, but it felt very much like that. Yeah. My attorney always told me that the only ship that doesn't float is a partnership. And I was also a lot younger than I am now. I'm 38 now. I was in my 20s when that was going on. It was really hard. It was quite ugly. A very good friend was my business partner, and I haven't spoken to her since. So it doesn't always happen that way. Obviously, I know of a ton of people who are in business partnerships and it works well. But I think for us, and just kind of how young we were, we had very different ways of operating. And there was just a make or break point where I was like, look, it's either you or me, and so it was me. We worked all that out, and that's that. It was very hard. It was very traumatic. It was very difficult. There were times after it felt like the right thing to do, but there were times afterwards where I thought it was the wrong thing to do. It's very hard sometimes being the only one in a business, because nobody cares about it as much as you do. Yeah. You can have the most amazing employees, and I do, but it's not their business at the end of the day. And sometimes that's a really hard pill to swallow.
It is. There's also no one to get angry with, right? If something goes wrong, you kind of look around, and in other jobs, you can always blame your boss or blame the manager or blame like subordinates. And this time it's like, oh, wait a second. I find that like once a week it happens where I'm like, oh, wait, that's me. You did that. So hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, I think this is a good segue into talking about fears. So I think a lot of women who want to start a business or even just make a big career shift, any major change like that, fear
Yeah.
just holds them back. They get stuck in the
Mhm.
planning stage for years on end and don't want to really like take the leap or launch something um, until everything's perfect. What
Yeah.
can you say about fear in general?
Yeah. So interesting that you bring up the perfect aspect. I don't see myself being held back as much by fear as I do by perfectionism.
Mhm.
Um, and, but it really is, at the end of the day, it's a fear of not being seen perfectly, right? So it is fear. It's just, wrapped up in something else.
Yeah.
Um, I struggle with that a lot. I struggle with imposter syndrome quite frequently.
Can you say
Um,
what that is? Because some people don't realize what that is.
yeah. So in my instance, well, for me, I don't have a college degree. I have an associate's degree.
Mhm.
And imposter syndrome is just this ugly thing where we just feel like we're faking it and we can't do it. And someone's going to find us out that we don't know what we're doing. And newsflash, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
And I know logically in my head that if I did have a college degree, I'd probably still feel like this, because there are plenty of people who are much better educated than me who still struggle with this. So that isn't the Band-Aid to making this never happen. But in my mind, and I think also because of my husband's career, my husband has a PhD, so I'm constantly like surrounded by a group of people who academics is very, very important to them. And I always am embarrassed and ashamed of my own like educational journey. And that definitely has played a part for sure. But yeah, I've gotten better at it as time has gone on. And I think a lot of that is just living through it, like
Mhm.
having those experiences, and you're like, oh well, I dealt with that before, I can deal with it again. But perfectionism is probably the thing that I deal with more often than not. And I just have to, like, good is better than perfect. Done
It
is
is.
better
It
than
is.
perfect. Um, and I just keep reminding myself of that and keep trying to plow forward. And some days are better than others.
Yeah. Well, if it makes you feel better, I think we all suffer from imposter syndrome. And I actually taught for over 11 years where your husband teaches now.
Yeah.
So I
Yep.
still, with degrees and education that I have, any of those things, it doesn't matter. You're still
Right.
going to feel
Right.
like, oh wait, I'm the business owner, I'm the one doing
Yeah.
this. Or even this podcast I was sharing with you before we started that I have all of these women from around the world that I'm interviewing. And
Yeah.
just the other day I thought, do they know I'm just a girl in Lincoln University,
Yeah.
Pennsylvania, like sitting in her library? It never ends. But it's also part of the fun when you turn it into kind of a positive and say, oh wait, if I'm saying, but I'm just doing this, well, I'm doing this regardless of what I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I want to ask you this just before we get to the next question. I think you're a good one to ask about this. As far as business, social media in your business, these
Yeah.
days, we don't just have Facebook and Instagram. Now we've got YouTube and we have TikTok,
Yes.
like the
Yeah.
bane of my existence now.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you handle social media in your business? It's always the first question that comes up when women are trying to launch a new business.
Yeah. So I am a great person to ask this question to, because I think if you can't be a good example, you can be a horrible warning. And I think I would fall into the horrible warning category. I do not love social media. I can't even tell you the last time I showed my face on social media. I don't enjoy it. I am definitely a person that just likes to be behind the scenes doing the work. And social media is not conducive to that kind of personality.
Mhm.
I have done probably everything wrong you could imagine in that regard. I did for a while have a friend who was managing the social media for me, and
Mhm.
she did a much better job than I was doing. But social media is so hard because you know what you need to know, right? Like we all
Mhm.
business owners, we've researched it, we know what we need to do. And then you can do those things and it doesn't mean that you're going to see any reward from it.
Yep.
Because the way the algorithms work and you never really know what's going to work and what isn't, even if you try to follow the rules. And so I ended up asking my friend if she would help me in a different part of my business where
Mhm.
it was going to, I felt, allow me to move forward faster.
Yeah, and
And
see
she,
results, right? And be able to track results
yeah,
better. Yeah.
and it's not a public facing thing that she's doing, but it's really helping me and makes me feel better. So I don't really post on social media very much, hardly at all. Where I do put most of my social media efforts are in a private Facebook group for the fans of my business.
But that's a huge thing. So can you talk
Yeah.
about that for a second?
Yeah. So I have a group on Facebook. People can request to join. It's all them coming to me. It's not ever me going to them.
Mhm.
There's about 24, maybe 100 people in the group. I haven't checked in a while. And it's all the people that really, really love my product and are using it, and are engaging, and are willing to come in there and give me suggestions and be honest and show people how they're using the products. And I just feel so good when I engage in that group.
Yeah.
And I don't feel the same way when I engage on social media. So
Yes.
in terms of like, TikTok or those other things. My daughter is 10 years old and she actually said that she wanted to do a TikTok account for me. And I like literally actually considered it. I'm like,
Yeah, they're so
honestly,
much
this
better at it.
10-year-old
Mhm.
probably knows way better than I do.
Yeah, and it's not a bad idea. Would you say the things like social media, it's just an example for you and for me of the
Yeah.
things that we don't necessarily love doing. I also enjoy being in my Facebook group, but not necessarily posting on pages and everywhere else. I outsourced some Instagram, and which I'm moving over to TikTok now. My neighbor who's in college is able to do that.
Yeah.
She was helping me do something else. And then I said, well, wait a second, look at her TikTok.
Yeah.
Can you just do that? And I knew
Yeah,
it would take her
yeah.
3 seconds to grab
Right.
videos and do that for me.
Yeah.
So now I get like compliments on how lovely my Instagram feed looks and everything. And I'm like, oh, does it? Let me go look, because I have no idea. I don't know what it looks
Yeah.
like. I didn't do
Mhm.
it. I answer, we have to, I answer questions and messages and things, but we have to prioritize and really think about, like you said, where we can see profitability, where we can measure results, things like that.
And just because I own a business does not mean that I am good at everything business. I don't do my own taxes. I have a bookkeeper.
Same.
Those are things that I am not good at. At the end of the day, I am a graphic designer. That is that is how I view myself. And secondary to that, I would say that I'm a printer, but I am not a social media expert. I love talking to my customers. I'm really good at customer service, but a lot of other things I'm not good at and I need help with.
So you said you're a printer. You have 2 businesses, essentially.
I do.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. That is one of the, again, I never meant to do this, but it just sort of happened. I feel like that's like the overarching story of my life when it comes to so I was using a local printer for many, many years. He was a mentor, a friend of mine, right, 15 minutes down the road. And he passed away a few years ago. And I was going to continue to use that printer. And then there was an issue with the person that bought it. And so I very, very quickly had to decide either I'm shutting everything down or I'm buying my own copier. Which is about a $50,000 investment. I mean, it was not small. It was a very large decision for me. And so I did. I bought all the rest of the equipment that I needed, and so that we could manufacture literally everything in one room. As it stood before, we were printing and bringing things back in here to finish.
Yeah.
And then, word got around, especially with my fellow business owners, that I have a printer. and I can print things for them. And well, if you can print these, can you also do business cards? And again, I'm a graphic designer. So yes, those are all things that I've been doing for a very, very long time. And not only can I design it, but now I can print it for you. And so Oxford Print and Design was sort of born of that. Is, you know, it's all in the same room. It's all still just me, but yeah, there's two businesses. One is the planners, and then one is the print business for local customers.
Yeah, which is how we met, right? Because you do a lot of the printing for some of my, especially last minute projects, which also sets you apart. You're able to kind of jump on things and get them done quickly, and run with them, which is great. So I could talk to you all day. Obviously, we're already close to the end of the interview period. So I'm just going to pick a question or two to wrap up. What would you say has been your greatest joy in running a business?
For me, I think it is endlessly cool that there are people all over the world that have money to spend and picked my stuff out of the entire internet to spend their dollars on. I'm a very, very, very strong believer in voting with your dollars. And so I think that that's an honor that they voted for me. And maybe I don't know, a very, very close second to that is that I'm able to employ another mother and offer her a place to work. She can come and go as she pleases. She can bring her children to work. She can take off the same school hours. I just think that's amazing because there aren't a lot of jobs like that are available.
Hardly
for
any.
Working professional women. And I'm pretty proud of that. I mean, I only employ her and then my other friends. So it's a very, very small company, but it makes a big difference for the one person.
Yeah, well, you have the same joys that I do. I 100% agree with both of those things. And it's my goal to employ women who I can help too, in terms of flexibility. With being moms, right?
Right.
So where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
This is a really weird question for me right now. I'm not sure. I am at a weird time with the business where I'm having to make some long-term decisions coming up over the next year. And so I'm rethinking everything. I don't want to get stuck in thinking one particular way. I kind of want to look at everything as a whole and reevaluate completely. I can tell you for sure that volunteering in the community is really important to me. And so no matter what path I find myself on, I'm going to continue to volunteer in the community and to get involved with other nonprofits and businesses that I feel are doing a good job. I'm on a board locally for an organization that helps support the merchants in our downtown area. And I just believe immensely in supporting other small businesses. So that's for sure. Everything else, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Well, my last question was basically about collaboration. So you kind of answered that with wanting to support other businesses. And my question was, how important is it to you to support other businesses, especially women in business? And are there any collaborations you would like to do with other businesses?
Yeah, I'm always open to doing things with, for the planners, more specifically, it would probably be artists who are interested in like making art for like planner covers. I've done that in the past, not a lot, but I have done it. And locally, yeah, I work with a lot of businesses locally. I've designed a lot of like local business logos for people, and I feel like I'm always collaborating with them when they come in to get things printed. I'm like, have you thought about doing this? Have you thought about doing this? Like, this is an option. We can do this. I think this might be a better fit for you. And so that happens all the time. And that's something I really enjoy. And that's actually another joy that I have, being able to have local customers as well as most of the people that I don't ever meet online. It's nice to be able to meet real people and get to talk to people face to face.
For sure. That's the main reason I opened my little shop in Chesapeake City, so that I can talk to people, after 7 years. It's not even so much to have a store, it's just to interact. Okay. So let's finish by telling those who are listening or watching where they can find you online.
Sure. So my website is limelifeplanners.com. And I am on Instagram at the same handle at Limelife Planners. And you can join the Facebook group if you'd like. It's a great place if you're like very confused by all the options of planners and all that kind of stuff. It's the official Love My Limelife Facebook group. So you can find it on there.
All right. So we will include those in the notes in the podcast and also in the YouTube notes so people know where to find you. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing
Thanks
your
for having
business
me.
journey.
Awesome. Have a good day.
You too.